In this lecture, we are going to discuss data governance. We will begin by defining what data governance is. We will then look at the DIKW pyramid, and we will look at that acronym shortly. We will then discuss data as a strategic asset, DAMA International. We will look at a data governance framework, and then finally a mnemonic device to help us remember that framework. So what is data governance? Data governance is a comprehensive approach to collecting, managing, securing, and storing data. A data governance framework consists of policies and processes that ensure data is accurate, consistent, secure, and available for effective use. And the primary goal of data governance is to derive value from data. For example, we want to use data to enhance our decision-making, to make data-driven decisions. We want to ensure that our organizations are in compliance with legal, regulatory, and policy requirements. And we want to ensure operational efficiency. Now, the DIKW pyramid is not on the CIPM exam. However, I found that for folks that do not have a data analysis or data science background, having this fundamental understanding, this foundational concept is really important and can help make concepts like data governance and data management really stick. So I want to spend just a minute or so on this concept, and then we'll move on. And so what you see here on the right-hand side, this is the DIKW pyramid. D for data, I for information, K for knowledge, W for wisdom. And data is just that. It is raw facts. These are numbers, statistics, etc. that are present in our environment but are not yet assembled into any patterns. Once we have data and we start to organize it and discover patterns, then we have information. And so information, this is aggregated facts that demonstrate a pattern or trend. And so let's imagine, for example, that I have a handful of numbers, and those numbers are 102, 98, 99, 98, 97, 92, 93, 89, 88, 84, 81, 83, 79. If you were to plot all of those numbers out, you would notice that there is a downward trajectory. And if I was to provide more context, maybe alongside that number, I provided a date, and perhaps those dates are September going into October or August going into September. Well, then we could say, well, this is temperature data. And this data is showing us that the temperature is dropping over time as we transition from summer to fall. And so that's how we go from having data, or just a bunch of disparate numbers, to information. We've assembled that information into aggregated facts, and it demonstrates a pattern or trend. From that information, we can then do things. So with our seasonal data, for example, we can say, all right, well, maybe it's time for us to change our wardrobe. Or maybe now it's time to start spending more time outside and arranging picnics and so forth. Finally, on top of knowledge, we have wisdom. And wisdom is the application of knowledge and experience to make good decisions and judgments. And so we can see here the importance of data. When we have data, when we can organize that data into a useful fact pattern, then we can do things with that information. And hopefully over time, we can extract wisdom. Again, we can make good decisions and judgments based on knowledge and experience. And the tie-in here with data governance is that data governance is helping us organize all of this data to ensure that the data is accurate, that there's good data integrity and quality, and that data is accessible whenever decision makers need it. And so when we think about deriving value from data, whether that's making good decisions or improving operational efficiency, then we can view data as a strategic asset. Again, data is the basis for data-driven decision-making. It can help us to track and measure performance and compliance throughout our organization. And from a privacy professional's point of view, it can also help us to identify, assess, and mitigate risk. For example, we've likely all heard of KPIs, or key performance indicators. A sibling of the KPI is the key risk indicator, or KRI. Now, just as we have the International Association for Privacy Professionals, the largest professional organization for privacy folks, the data management and data governance folks also have their own professional organization. And one of these major data management or data governance organizations is DAMA International. DAMA, D-A-M-A, stands for Data Management Association. And just as the IAPP has a number of certification exams and bodies of knowledge, so does DAMA International. DAMA has the DMBOK, or Data Management Body of Knowledge, and this consists of 10 data management knowledge areas, which we're going to spend the rest of the lecture discussing. So this is a quick visual for you. We're going to be talking about each of these different knowledge areas, beginning with data architecture and moving around clockwise. So when we're referring to data architecture, we're referring to the data structure and data-related resources. Data modeling and design refers to analysis, design, building, testing, and maintenance of data. Storage and operations refers to physical data assets, such as servers, for example, as well as storage deployment and management. Security refers to privacy, confidentiality, and ensuring authorized access. Integration and interoperability refers to acquisition, extraction, transformation, movement, delivery, replication, federation, virtualization, and operational support. Documents and content refer to storing, protecting, indexing, and access to unstructured sources. Reference and master data refers to managing shared data and reducing redundancy. Warehousing and BI, this is for analytical processing and decision support for reporting. Metadata refers to the collecting, maintaining, controlling, and delivering of metadata, which is data about data. And finally, quality. Here we're referring to defining, monitoring, and maintaining data quality. Now, I know what you're probably wanting to ask me, which is, Dr. David, do I really need to remember all 10 of these and the definitions? Well, it's possible that any of these topics could pop up on the exam. I think it's unlikely that you're going to need to regurgitate all 10 of these verbatim. Remember that this is a multiple choice exam, and so I think what's likely is you may be given some definition, and then you're required to select the correct area. I think there may also be a question where you're asked to choose which of the given choices is not part of the DMBOK. I think a lot of those different areas that we looked at just a moment ago are pretty self-explanatory, and so I wouldn't think that you would need to commit all of the different definitions to memory. Out of this entire lecture, I think what's most important is that you know how to define data governance. You also need to know what DAMA International is and know that there is a DM body of knowledge or data management body of knowledge. Now, if you are like me and you like over preparing for exams, then perhaps you want to commit all 10 of those areas to memory. And if you would like to do that, I've prepared here for you a mnemonic device. That mnemonic device is amazed Martian silently sang in delight, writing Wild Magic Quokka. And you probably heard that last word and you're like, what the flip is a quokka? Well, a quokka is a marsupial that resides in Western Australia, and it looks like a big hamster or a little bit like a guinea pig. Now, when I was playing with Midjourney to make this illustration on the right-hand side, Midjourney apparently didn't know what a quokka was, and so I had to tell it to make this mnemonic device illustration out of a hamster. And yes, I intentionally have the hamster pooping out a rainbow. Why? Well, why not? It makes the visual more interesting. I think you're more likely to remember this. And so, anyway, whether or not you decide to commit this to memory, reach out, let me know what you think about the mnemonic device. In this lecture, we went over data governance. Remember that data governance is a comprehensive approach to collecting, managing, securing, and storing data. The DIKW pyramid is a foundational data science concept. Remember that data is important as a strategic asset, and as a strategic asset, it is the basis for data-driven decision-making. You should remember the DAMA International. Again, DAMA stands for Data Management Association. Remember that the Data Management Association has a body of knowledge, which includes 10 data management knowledge areas. And finally, I'm not going to read through all 10 of the areas that are in the DM body of knowledge here. If you'd like to over-prepare for the exam, I don't think it will hurt you to remember these. But if you're short on time, or if something like this just seems insurmountable to you, I think this is probably the only mnemonic device you can go without committing to memory for the course. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not going to pop up on the exam. I think it's unlikely that you're going to see many questions on this. Throughout the entire exam, you may have one question that's on this particular topic. And of course, to aid you in your memorization, we have the mnemonic device. Amazed Martian silently sang in delight, riding Wild Magic Quokka.